right, so this is Imbali Live, which is obviously the event that was born out of a podcast that gives key players in the South African music industry their flowers while they can still smell them. And they get to tell us their stories while they're still around to do it. Do you want me to put the fan on? Like Ekonyana, something? Okay, Zola, the people are saying they are hot. So can we, yeah. All right, so the hashtag for today is Imbali Live. It's on the board that our guest is trying to act like she can't see me. The hashtag is over there and the social media handles as well if you would like to tweet or Instagram or any of that good stuff. I think we can actually start. Our Imbali Live guest is someone I really, really love. She is a pioneer of hip-hop PR. She's a social media maven, and she is the managing director of Two Tone Communications. Please put your hands together for Melanie, Hypress, Ramjee. Yeah! How dope is it to have you here in front of an audience? It's always just everyone. Me and you.
Oh.
How you doing?
I'm good, and you? Can I ask you about your t-shirt before we start? I don't see my name.
How are we already like, I'm supposed to be asking you questions. But yeah, so to start, you are from Overport.
That's in Durban.
Did you guys know of a place called Overport? Oh, of course you know because you're from Durban. So you started out at Overport.
Yeah, it's a small little Indian hood.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, what was the kind of music that was playing in your household?
I think I got my love for music from my granny, so I have to start there. She would play Toyota Top 20. I know a lot of you are very young. It was the coolest show back in the day. It was live of those days.
Live amp
of those days. So it was called Toyota Top 20. So yeah, I would listen. I mean, hip-hop was just emerging when I was very young. But we would listen to UB40. My granny would play everything and anything. So that was the one thing I always remember was a lot of UB40.
Yeah.
And I started listening to like the early hip-hop pioneers.
So can you remember who some of those people were that were influencing your love for hip-hop?
Jeez, I remember loving LL Cool J.
The lips, right?
I was a sexy guy. I actually loved Marky Mark as well. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Yeah.
Because he was just a cute boy. But yeah, just the old school guys. Like Eric Sermon, like all the legends.
Yeah. So how did you wind up in Johannesburg?
I think I was 10 years old and my parents were like, well, there's no money in Durban, so let's go to where the city of gold is. And we ended up here. My dad got a good job and we ended up here.
What was your dad doing for a living?
My dad was in, in sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you're living in Johannesburg and you are frequenting an ice rink.
Sure, yeah.
Is that kind of how the story goes?
So I think as a pastime and something fun to do, I would go ice skating during the day on a Saturday. That was like the cool spot to hang out. There was either you went to the nightclub, the matinee, or you went to ice skate. And it happened to be the coolest, most integrated, mixed kind of marketplace. So you could find everybody there. And it was great. I would hang out there. I spent 3 or 4 years there. I met my very first boyfriend there. I joined a church via ice skating. So a lot of my life came from being in that space.
Yeah. And how did you move from church girl to being the girl who's hanging out at Q's?
Well, I met my very first boyfriend at the time. He was a DJ. And he was ice skating as well with his friends, and they were handing out flyers for this club that he ran called, it was called actually Kilimanjaro, the original one in Commissioner Street years ago, and he was DJing out there, and he was like, no, you need to come and check me out, here's my flyer, and my best friend and I were like, geez, we don't do clubs, it's not for us, and he was like, no, come check it out. And we saw him a few weeks later, and one day we just gave it a chance, because it was during the day. That's what started my whole industry life. I loved it.
I feel like there needs to be an entire book or something about this period, because some people will tell you about Q's.
Well, we ended up at Q's.
So Kilimanjaro
This was pre-Q's even.
Oh, so Kilimanjaro was a different club altogether.
I was pre-Q's. Q's at the time was very small. It was just house music. And he was also a house DJ. I think he was a bit too young. He was 15 at the time. He couldn't really get into the Q's market. And then we did progress down to Q's like 2 years later. There was suddenly a hip-hop section upstairs. I would sneak away because I didn't really like the house side. The hip-hop was calling me. And there was a guy named Blaze, who you guys I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was like this, I wouldn't like to say the Reddy D of Joburg, but that's pretty much what he was. He was the legendary hip-hop DJ. And I would sneak upstairs, leave my boyfriend and go upstairs to listen to the other DJ. And I loved hip-hop. And then they formed a partnership one day, and it led to another club called Lee Club. And I happened to do the door. So that's how I got to meet all the hip-hop pioneers in SA. The Amos of the world.
Were they paying you to do the door, or were they just
No, I wasn't paid. But we used to charge like 4 Rand and 6 Rand to get into the nightclub.
Yeah.
It was that long ago.
Yeah. So at this stage, you are somebody who loves hip hop a lot. You're frequenting the matinees, and you decide to take on an alias. Yes. You become Hypress.
There was even something before that, which no one knows. But I used to love the word diva. I didn't know what it really meant. I used to hang out with Amu and Salvin and some of the guys, and Tumi, who was called Fat Boy at the time. And he was in a crew called Database. And I used to want to rap with these guys because, there was the DJ, but I loved hip-hop and I thought I had some skill, which I obviously didn't. But I used to write down some lyrics, and I used to pitch it to the guys. I got the skill. And then, Diva never really took off.
Listen, I'm gonna pause over here because I feel like we want to hear Diva's lyrics, right?
No.
Do we not want to hear some?
I lost the book.
So then you decided, okay, since I don't really want to rap, I'm not going to be Diva anymore.
Yeah, I think I really love the business of music. I love people. I loved writing. That was always something I loved doing. So I kind of fell into PR. I didn't really know there was a job called PR. So I kind of just fell into it. When I finished studying, I studied fashion design. Bradley, Bionic at the time. We were like, let's start this record company. Let's sign up some artists.
Yeah.
Let's do something.
But now you're jumping way ahead, right? Because you've avoided answering the question about the name, Hypress.
No. It does come later on.
It comes way later.
Way later on. He was still Bionic.
Okay.
And we started a record company called Eargasm Entertainment.
Yeah.
So Hypress comes a little bit along the line.
Okay. So what are your parents thinking when you guys are going out to clubs and, you're doing this hip-hop thing that's not very mainstream at the time?
Well, I still think my parents don't think I have a real job. They don't get PR. They're very old school. So if you're not a doctor, a teacher, a nurse, what is PR? They were furious. They were not happy. They really didn't know what we were doing. They were unhappy. I had a DJ boyfriend. Surely I had bigger goals. DJs didn't get paid at the time. It was not a normal thing. Your parents want you to dream big and have big goals. So yeah, they, as much as they were supportive and paid for my education, they were like, well, we've invested in this thing we didn't want you to do in the first place called fashion design. And now you want to be in this music thing. But ultimately it led to them making us use a room in the house as an office. And that's where we initially started Eargasm Entertainment. So we used a room in his house and a room in my house till we got formal offices. And this is all when we were 18, 19, 20.
Jeez, that's super young.
Yeah.
So at this point, are you still doing fashion design? Are you still studying and
I was
working
doing the fashion in the morning, come home. We had just signed up our first artist, Spectator.
Yeah.
And he was our first artist, and we were in talks with Mischief because we wanted to sign him up. Those were our first 2 artists. So I was juggling both. And then on Saturdays, he would go to Lee Club. I would work in the morning at Truett's, and then in the afternoon come to the club to work.
Yeah.
So we were really just doing everything.
And not much has changed because you're working all the time.
Pretty much. Nothing's changed. I just get paid a little better now.
Yeah. So what were you learning about, particularly an artist's brand, when you were doing something like fashion design?
It's something I probably never want to do now, but at the time it was massive. It was great to be involved with the DJ business. It was a growing industry. It was an emerging industry. So DJs were really cool. And I think a lot of the guys that are huge today, the DJ freshers of the world, they were all starting up. So it was big business for the young black man in South Africa.
Yeah. So you often speak about your life story in a very nonchalant way, things just happened, things were just organic.
Blessed.
But paint the picture for us. So when you guys decide to start Eargasm, how exactly does that happen? Are you sitting somewhere and then somebody says, hey, let's start a record company? How does that happen?
How did it actually happen? So I think we were in the nightclub business a lot. So we were exposed to artists, and a lot of these guys didn't have the platform to actually get their music out there, except performing on a Saturday at Lee Club. So it was a matter of let's do something about it. Nobody else is doing anything. There was really just ghetto rough at the time. And there was no one else doing this music, putting out hip-hop, putting out the music we love so much, and that offered such a great positive platform for young people. So I think it was a discussion. Bradley and I sat, and we were let's talk about this. How can we do something about it? And he was great at sourcing artists, and I was great at speaking. And we had another partner who's Mr. Bigger, Martin. He's from Botswana. The three of us started Eargasm. We were just tired of no one doing anything about putting this music out. And that's pretty much how it started.
Yeah. So Specs is your first artist.
Correct.
And it's not as though hip-hop is as big as it is now.
Not at all.
So you are in charge of now doing the publicity for this guy and this culture that isn't huge. How do you go about navigating that?
Okay, a lot of you might not know that there's a thing called a fax machine, and we had to send out press releases to one journalist at a time. So I think it's a lot of the editors right now were also young journalists at the time. So you at the time, okay, you were a little younger, but a lot of the editors at the time were new journalists. So they were looking for content, and we were all just there to support each other. So I would call up someone and say, hi, I met you along the way at the club. Hey, Helen. Please put us on. So that's where I initiated my relationship building with journalists. I would literally just call you up. And I think I was born in the right time, at the right place at the right time, because a lot of those editors, like I say, were up and coming as well. So I got a lot of support from people I didn't really know, and they felt I was giving them great content. So it was a matter of literally sending a press release to one journalist at a time, creating a letterhead, sending it out. You guys don't even know how that is, per person, printing, faxing, waiting for it to be delivered. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started.
Yeah. And what is your favorite memory about working with either Mischief or Specs? Tell us a fun story.
I don't know. I really loved working with Mischief. I think Specs was our first artist. I was still learning the ropes. It was a little bit more harder. I think we were friends, and I think that's what made it so much easier to work with. I have so many great memories with Mischief. We used to club hop together. So I wasn't your traditional publicist that would just set up interviews and that's where it would end. I would attend clubs. So I was pretty much a publicist, manager / road manager / everything. Bradley was the DJ, but I would do everything else. So I think it got me into such a great role of learning all the different jobs and facets in the industry. Those are the greatest memories. I remember partying with him in a club in Orange Grove called 206. There was a club next door on a Tuesday that we used to party at called 204, 207. And we used to party there on a Tuesday night. It was the biggest night in the industry. We were young and students, so we would get up at the next day and be able to party, to work again. But yeah, he would be my sidekick as well as my artist and friend. And so we were all learning at the same time as, promoting his music.
Yeah. So at the time, you guys are maybe one of two, maybe under a handful of independent record labels, right? And particularly record labels that are pushing hip-hop. Mm-hmm. So were there other companies that you looked at and you were like, oh, we want to kind of take their blueprint, or we want to be a little bit more like them?
I think at the time there really was just ghetto rough. Towards the end of Eargasm's era, there was Rage Productions that was coming up. I think they were just doing so much more than us. And they were great at what they did. And I think with us, we then ventured into events. because we then started a different leg of the company called Eargasm Entertainment, and we started going into concerts and events. But yeah, there weren't really a lot of black companies out there, African companies that were emerging at the time. So there really was Ghetto Rough, us, and Rage Productions at the time.
So I often call you one of the pioneers of hip-hop PR, right? And I really can't think of anybody else at the time who was doing what you were doing. Like, obviously, Maria with Rage, she only later became a publicist, and
correct.
Fiona was writing as well. But for you, were there any mentors or people you were looking at in the PR realm within hip-hop?
I think because we were the ones we were just alone in this business. There was really no one to look up to. I think we were the first of our kind. There was really, I mean, we looked at our peers for support. And I have a great story with Fiona, which is a very good friend of mine. And she works at Spotify right now, or Apple. She's in Dubai doing great things for music. But I met her through, she was, I think, in varsity, and she was a radio DJ. And so that's how we initially met. My greatest memory, we had a huge event called Temperatures Rising, and we had it at a dodgy club in Orange Grove. And we would chat on the phone for hours. And if any of you know Fiona, she has like the sexiest voice. And we would chat. I would always call her for advice, like, what do you think I should do? We had never met. And we were doing this event called Temperatures Rising, and she just arrived at the door, and she was like, hello, Melanie. I was like, Fiona. So she was someone I fed a lot off, getting like a lot of feedback and guidance. And Maria, Thuli, Zeno, outside of just them, we just used each other for guidance and for mentorship in a way. There was no one to guide us at the time.
Yeah. And was there a point within that time period where you were like, there's more to life than hip-hop? Let me branch out and see what
there was only hip-hop. I think when I was in it, that hip-hop was my life. That's all there really ever was. Outside of doing albums and releasing artists and doing events around hip-hop, that's really all there was. I was young. I was early 20s. That's all there really was for me. Yeah. And it offered such a great positive platform for me. That's all I needed at the time. Obviously, I moved on later on. But at the time of Eargasm's era, hip-hop was all it was for me. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking of, there's a picture that you've posted of you and Lebo Matoza. And I'm thinking about like how easy or difficult that you found it to branch out of hip-hop and go into other genres and other cultures and still fit in. How was that for you?
I think, as I progressed and I grew a bit older, there was different genres of music. After my reign of Eargasm Entertainment in the industry, I did move on. And it was hard running your own business when you're a young kid. So I actually got a job and I started working for somebody. And Lebo happened to be one of my first clients. I did her PR. It was completely different music. But it sort of was kind of a different form of hip-hop because it still had a vibe. So, great transition. Later on, I also worked for Smirnoff, and I was immersed into the house music genre. That killed me every single day.
Because you hate house music.
House music. But, I got used to it. Your ear changes. And you can get used to any music except rock.
I don't know about that.
No.
But do you have a special memory that you have of Lebo that you are willing to share with us?
Geez, it's a silly story, but I have a memory. You guys know Lebo like girls. So I went to the Dugu Dugu Awards. I think one of the last ones that had happened. And I went with her and Bianca Lagrange to these Dugu Dugu Awards. And we had a fabulous night. We got to Bianca's house, we got ready, we got to the event, and we had the most fabulous time. She even won an award. And we got home and went to bed, and we woke up during the week, and we had made all the headlines, from Shwa Shwi to Drum to You. I was the new girlfriend.
Oh.
Apparently. Because I was not really known, so I had to be Lebo's new light-skinned white girlfriend.
Yeah.
Firstly, I was scared of her actual girlfriend, who was very butch. But did I not get calls from my Christian mom talking about, let's go and pray, when did you become a lesbian, Mal?
Yeah.
But it was so funny because we were such good friends. We were just amazing friends, and we just laughed it off.
Yeah.
Me as the new white girlfriend.
All right, so speaking of awards, around 2004, 2005, you took on the Summers. And I think the chorus.
Oh, one of my, yeah.
Yeah, and was that the year that Entity was nominated for a Cora?
Hi, that's too long ago. I don't remember.
We'll look it up. So, working with the Summers, right? And looking back then and now, what do you think are the things that we are not getting right when it comes to celebrating and rewarding South African musicians?
Well, a lot has changed from what used to happen in 2004 and 2005. I just don't think we support South African music enough. We're really about that American life. And I think it's one thing when we're singing the music and we're playing it on our radio, but when we're actually not buying local music, it affects everything around us, including award ceremonies. So yeah, pretty much that.
What was Eclipse Communications?
Eclipse, it's what Two-Tone was the original name. Eargasm was the original name of the company.
Yeah.
But we got so many, what? Come again? Did you just say orgasm? So when I left the business, when I left Eargasm, that's what the name then changed to Eclipse Communication, to Eclipse Production.
Why did you leave?
Sure. I grew up. We broke up, but that's the reality of it. We just broke up. I could not see myself working with my partner anymore. So, I just grew up. And I wanted to make money. So I think we could have actually set our differences aside. But, at the time, hip-hop was not paying. And I was getting older. And I had more things to buy. And I wanted pretty things. So I went out and got a real job.
Yeah. Is this when you went to Speaker's Corner?
No, I actually worked for a company called Dreamcatcher.
With Marang.
With Marang.
Yeah.
That was where Lebo was my client.
Okay.
I actually did Tandiswa's PR and Lebo Matosa's PR.
Oh, that's so cool. Do you have a Tandiswa story? Because I know she's got lots of stories.
Tandiswa just never pitched for interviews, so there ain't no story there.
So then how do you deal with that?
That was really difficult. I think because I was just now trying to do my own thing and work for a business and prove myself outside of like being this young girl doing her own thing. Having a boss was really difficult. So I had set up a lot of interviews, and I do love Tandiswa, but it was difficult at the time because she was a huge brand, and I was honored to work with her. But I had set up something like the Sunday Times cover, the magazine cover, and she couldn't make it. So Lebo stepped in for me.
Yeah. Okay. So then before Two-Tone actually, you started working with other clients, right? Like your Bonangs. And so tell us a little bit about your involvement in brand Bonang.
I think Bonang was very young at the time. She was still up and coming, emerging. She was starting to get a few magazine covers, so I helped. I did 2 or 3 of her cover magazine parties, getting her out there, just getting it out to the media. She actually had a handbag launch, and we also did. It was a joint joint handbag and website launch, and also managed that as well.
So at this point, are you like, I'm done with music? Here is where all the money is.
In between all of that, I actually started a company called Fifth Season. I don't think a lot of you guys know that. I started Fifth Season with 2 people, my best friend at the time, Nanelle Masson, and Rafael Benza.
How come you don't tell people these things? Do you guys know Fifth Season?
It was
it
was 2 years of my life.
So wait, let's go back. How does the company start? Because a lot of people know Fifth Season for like bringing out AKA, and I mean they work with Big Star now. But how did it start?
In 2009, after having worked for a boss for a long time, I was just tired. I was like, I want to start my own thing. I'm tired of working for like a Jewish lady I'm getting paid this lousy 8,000 Rand, clearing 5 something a month, giving my all. I just want to try my own thing again. Because you can always pick yourself up and try again. Eargasm maybe didn't work out for me, but here I am with Two-Tone, 10 years old. I went on a sabbatical. I quit my job. I had a lot of air miles from all my travels with work, and I went to London for 3 months without a plan. Came back, borrowed my brother's my adopted brother's mother's laptop, which had a shaky screen. And I was like, I want to start my own business. So I just didn't know where to go. And at the time, Nanelle was like, you know what, why don't you join forces with us? And I thought, you know what, it's an easy thing. Let me just check this out again. You know, you get scared to start your own business. And I took a few steps back and I was like, cool, let's start this thing. So we ran it for a few months out of an office in Sandton. And I really didn't like their name. I think they were called Urban something. And I was like, everybody's using this word urban. Why don't we create a new name? So Nanelle and I sat and we came up with the 5th season. And what we were going to do, experiential marketing and eventing and all of that. So we completely changed the face of the brand and what the company stood for. We started 5th season.
Yeah.
And 2 years in, I was like, no, this calling of starting your own thing, it's in the back of my mind all the time. I wasn't brave enough at the time. And I think when, at the end of 2010, I was like, this is it. I'm doing it.
You have to
with
take
that
the leap.
shaky laptop, I went and I registered a company called Two Tone.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. What is the significance of 5th season? Like, obviously, there are only 4 seasons, but how did you guys land up?
So the honest truth about it is we actually came up with the name because we wanted to come up with a party concept. So when I was chatting to Nanelle, it was just the two of us sitting in a room one night late at 8 o'clock at the office saying, you know what, there's only 4 seasons. Let's create something that's unknown, like the 5th season, something that's completely unknown. And I think we came up with a few things like 13th month, or we just came up with a few ideas. And the 5th season really came from there. Like, let's be something of the unknown.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Do you guys remember a website called Wanted? Wanted.co.za?
With an O.
Yeah. So you had a hand
I was
in doing that.
I was the webmaster, or what do you call it, editor.
Yeah. Why did you guys want to do Wanted?
So as much as we brought the name, Benza came up with the idea of this Wanted title. We wanted to have a website. I mean, we wanted to be the Yo Mzanzis or the Skipanis of the time. There wasn't really, those guys hadn't really set up, and we wanted to, you know, give information out as much as promote our own events. Could be a platform to, you know, to put the information out. So he came up with the name Wanted. There was a meaning to it and everything. But we were great. I loved the idea, and we put out really great content.
So that was a precursor to Hypress Live.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, because now you do your own thing on the
side.
Yes.
When I'm not doing the day job.
Yeah. But now I just remembered, you haven't told us the Hypress name.
Oh my
so
God.
Are we still not at the point
where... No, it's really just a silly story that stuck and it worked for my brand. But the truth of the matter is I shouldn't tell you, but here goes. So, dating DJ Bionic, he changed his name to Hype, DJ Hype. And I was obviously the girlfriend who tagged around, so I call myself
Hypress.
And because, you know, I brought the hype to his brand and all the DJs I did work for.
Yeah.
And then many years later, I mean... When I started, a lot of people don't know my company is called Two Tone. They think it's called Hypress.
Yeah.
And that's not the truth. So I love the name. It just stuck with me. I then started, a few weeks later, I started this, when I got my first email address, Yahoo had just come out. And I'm from the old school where people were even scared to get an email. Like, are people going to know your business? Like, how aren't they going to tap into your stuff? I'm talking like the 90s. So I used Hypress 1 at Yahoo. And, you know, because Hypress was taken, which I couldn't believe, but kept the name. It just stuck. It constantly followed me. He obviously changed his name then back to Bradley Williams. But I like the name. And it stuck. It worked for my brand because it's such a PRable name. So if you need hype for your brand, I bring you the hype. So Hypress, it just stuck.
That's dope, man. How do you figure out if you have a PRable name? Like, if I want a PRable name, what must I do?
I don't know. you know what sounds sexy. And what people keep, because a lot of people don't even know my name is Melanie.
Yeah, they just call you Hypress.
And I think even back then, the name had stuck. It was Hypress. Well, that's where it started.
Okay.
I think people just bought into it. So that's where I realized it's PRable. It's a nice name.
Yeah. So everybody always tells us entrepreneurship is hard, right? So up until 2010, you'd been working with other people and starting businesses with other people. So when you started Two Tone, what was that first year like for you?
I was blessed enough with my previous job. I had done some work for YFM. And YFM followed me. They were like, we want to come with you. They didn't want to stay at my last business, so they followed me, and they were my first client. And remember that lousy 8,000 Rand I was earning? They offered me 15,000 Rand to do a 2-week campaign. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. For 2 weeks of work, and just do some PR for an event they were doing. I never looked back. But at the end of the month, when I was still in the process of registering my business, because it takes 90 days, I got the paycheck, and it wasn't 15,000 Rand. They had deducted my 25% tax. I nearly died, because in my head I already spent this money, and I'd been paying bills that I hadn't for, the last few months.
Yeah.
I nearly died. And I think being an entrepreneur, that's where you pretty much learn the business as you go. So I've learned some really difficult lessons along the way, like that was a difficult one, and a few small others. But being an entrepreneur, as much as it's tough, you also learn all these lessons. If you don't know, and ain't nobody teaching you, you're going to learn the hard way.
Yeah. So around 2010, the World Cup is here, right? Everybody is in instant euphoria, right?
Is here.
But not too many people are concentrating on music the way they used to. Now it's a lifestyle thing. So does that then force you to take your hands off the music wheel and start going in another direction?
I've always loved music. I just think it was just, I had done it. I wanted something new. I wanted to try something different and venture in a different space. So it will always be my foundation. Music was still there, but I was just trying different things and other things. So I ventured into sport. I did a few golf tournaments. I ventured into theater. I ventured into a TV show. So I diversified. Yeah.
And then you worked on Trey songs.
Yes. Actually, before that was even Rick Ross.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was hard.
The reason I remember Trey songs is because I don't think at that time I've had so many people ask how they can get tickets.
Sure.
So that's a thing that you get asked all the time, right?
Every day.
So who has been your favorite artist to work with so far?
Trey Songz would be one of them. I think he was really easy to work with. I don't think I was a fan. I'm out of his target group, his target audience group. But when I met him, he was such a warm person, and he was so accommodating. He was one of my favorites. I think some of my other favorites, I'll start with international. Kelly Rowland was really lovely to work with. Carrie Hilson was really lovely to work with. Rick Ross was by far my hardest artist to work with.
Why?
If you know ghetto, he ain't even ghetto. He's like beyond ghetto. He's a hood.
Why? What was he doing?
Every time he's come here. No, he was, I don't know what's their perception of Africa, but I think they came here the first time thinking it's a jungle. And they're going to see lions walking on the street. But just how his security dealt with the media and how they acted was just that silly mentality. Like Africans are animals, or we're crazy. I don't know what they expected of Africa, what they were super paranoid. How they dealt with media was not great. And that's not him. It's obvious, and it's a lot, it's the team around you. So at the time, his team was crazy. Completely crazy. Made it really difficult to work with.
Yeah. And you've often said that you don't enjoy working with individuals. You enjoy working with brands, rather. Who was the person that made you decide, I don't want to work with people?
I don't think there was one in particular. I don't even think it's a personal choice, but I think I've just had too many bad experiences where I've done PR for artists or DJs or individuals. When it comes to payment, it's always an issue. I think brands pay you more and expect what you promise them. I think a lot of artists, they don't really understand what PR is up to today. I think a publicist can't make you either have the skill or you don't have the talent. You need that as a foundation first and all. I mean, not to say not every artist has talent, but PR people help you along the way. They get your brand out there. They build your brand. A lot of them get that wrong. They think Mel's going to make me a star. You need to be a star before you come to Mel. You have to have the star presence at least, or believe you're a star. So I think a lot of them get that wrong. And that's the reason I just find it more difficult. A brand comes to you with their brand messaging, and you are responsible to put it out. Or you guide them into, your messaging is incorrect, let me help you, or let me guide you. I think artists just need to understand it a bit more. Yeah. So I've always found it just a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Not to say I don't do it. I do it occasionally. If I do really, truly believe in your brand, I will take it on. So I'm not anti-artists and individuals. I have a few under my books right now, too.
That's good to know. But I want to talk about some of the ways in which you've picked yourself up.
Yes.
From some like heavy knocks, right? So I'm thinking here about a specific time that you were asked to be involved with an international artist and that didn't work out. So tell us a little bit about that story and how you actually picked yourself up again.
That's a very controversial story. I was approached by a fellow PR professional and said, listen, let's get involved in this concert of this huge international artist. I was like, yay. And she was at the time, she said, let's go to MTN or a telecommunication company we need 5 million rand to bring this artist out. And I was like, no, let's go I know a few rich politicians and businessmen. Instead of that, there's a lot of guys who want to be famous and promoters. So I'm like, let's go to those guys and get some money. And I know a lot of them. So we approached 2 guys and they had the 5 million rand, gave us the money. We started talking to these people about the show, and all of a sudden I was kicked out of the equation because they didn't need me anymore. They had the publicist and they had the promoter. I was just the other publicist. And it was someone really close to me that I trusted, adored, and loved. I was kicked out of the equation. Anyway, fast forward a little bit. Concert never happened. The guy that she was dealing with was actually dodgy. And it never happened. So these businessmen wanted their money back. They couldn't really come to me. I was cut out of the equation. So who was left? It was her. There was a huge investigation. And I don't know whatever happened at the end of it. But because I was kicked out, I was not involved. But pick yourself up and try again.
But what did you do to pick yourself up? Because this is a personal friend, and it's also your business associates, and now they've kicked you out. So what do you do?
You know what? It made me tougher. It made me realize you can't trust anyone in this industry. And the truth be told is I'm a trusting person. I have since made up with the person. We're not best friends anymore, but I mean, we industry friends. So I've moved so far. I've moved away from trusting people on a business level. So hence I work alone. And I think even doing the stuff I did with For Season took me back to that, saying, you want to do this alone. And that's also what pushed me into going to running my own business. So I picked myself up. It made me tougher. It was hard. I lost some money. I lost some time. I lost a good friend at the time. But I pretty much toughened up.
You had to keep it moving.
Yeah.
So you spoke a little bit about how there are certain people who want to be famous, right? They're not really entertainers, but they just want to be famous. And in the way that PR and publicity has evolved, you guys often get blamed for, you guys want to be famous. The publicist wants to be in the spotlight.
This is true.
And people have said that to you. So how do you deal with that?
Geez, there was an article that came out in The Star that slated some of us in this, I think it was in 2008. And I was still building my reputation and my brand.
Yeah.
But I was very well known for going to an event and getting home and posting all the pictures. And yes, I took lots of pictures with celebs because these were the people I worked with. But this article came out and it completely slated me and 2 or 3 other publicists. Yeah, it happens all the time. But the truth of the matter is my client will always come above me. I'm not trying to be famous. I just happen to play in the same space. And I keep it moving. I also play myself outside of my PR job. I do play in the influencer space. So brands have moved towards, believing in influencer campaigns. And yes, they are very beneficial to brands in some cases. So yeah, I've jumped on the influencer bandwagon as well. So I've now become the influencer. I hate the word, but that's what we call it. So yes, I play in that space. But never will I put... In my case, it's brand, so I can't really be more famous than the brand. But with my artists, I'm a worker at the end of the day. I'm a supplier. I will never put myself ahead of my artist. So when you send me an invite to the GQ Awards, I'm not going to say, oh, can I also invite myself? They're actually inviting my artist. Or if they invite me personally, I'll say, wow, I also have these 3 artists under my book, so I think it would be great to come to your event before me. So I would push them. But yeah, some people get it right, some don't.
You know what I find interesting is that particularly women in business, right? Especially if you play a behind-the-scenes role like a publicist, people expect you to constantly be behind the scenes. They almost expect you to feel guilty for being in front of the camera. Did you have those feelings before you were considered an influencer?
To be in front of the limelight.
Did you feel guilty about, like, oh, they want me as me to show up?
I did. I still do. I really don't like being in front of the camera. As you guys can tell, I'm already nervous. I'm not even looking at you half the time. I'm really a behind-the-scenes person. Unfortunately, in this day and age, you have to also promote yourself in a certain light. So yes, I'll take on a few gigs where I have to actually be in front of the camera, behind the camera or in front instead of behind. But it's few and far between.
Okay, so speaking about being on camera, 2017, Jet approaches you.
Oh my, no.
Was it not
Earlier.
Jet?
2016, I did the first one.
Yeah.
And then 2017, I did the second one. So it's 2016.
2016, Jet approaches you and they say, we want to put you in underwear for the world to see.
Thank God I wasn't seeing my husband at the time. I would have done it.
So what did you think when they approached you?
I've always had body image issues my whole entire life. I've been skinny, I've been fat, I've never been happy with my body. And I think in my 30s, I just got tired of that. And I said, I want to be happy in my own skin. So when they called me and they ran the concept by me, like this is all about body image and loving yourself and being in your own skin, it was something that I'd been going on this journey for the longest time. So it really spoke to me at the time. And the money wasn't great, but the concept was amazing. And yeah, I mean, I was really afraid the entire session, the entire shoot. I was standing next to a girl, Leanne Lamini, who was half my size. I was standing next to another girl who was twice my size, but they were even more confident than me. And the other one, Leanne, she was even more afraid than I was. And I thought she's the hottest person in the room or the skinniest, cutest looking girl. So we all have our insecurities. And I think I love the concept, and it spoke to me, and I did it again the next year. And I think the impact it had on females and the response we got made it all worth it. I felt like I got paid R1 million. So it was never about the money. It was really just the concept was amazing. So I loved it.
Yeah. So by that point, and I suppose even today, a lot of us know you from hip-hop, right? But you've evolved way beyond it.
Very few actually know me from hip-hop. You old people only.
Speak for yourself. I'm not old. But did you ever feel like, wow, what if people think I've sold out because I didn't stay within hip-hop?
I think I did kind of sell out. And I think if I hadn't, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I'm not at a point where I don't care what people think, because I do. But yeah, I believe I've paid my dues. And I paid my dues for the time that I was in that era. And I thank hip-hop for what it made me today. I don't think hip-hop thinks I cheated on it. I don't think hip-hop feels betrayed. And neither should anybody out there.
So there's this picture on your Instagram of you in hospital.
Oh my
and you
gosh.
have your laptop on your lap. And 1 hour old baby Maya on your chest. Take us back to that day.
So it's not so long ago. I had an event on the day I went into labor. So I went into labor a lot earlier than planned. We got to the hospital on my son's birthday. I had, thank God, gift wrapped his birthday present. But I woke up with cramps and we rushed to the hospital. And they were like, okay, you're going into labor. And I'm like, but I have an event today. Can I just go home and come back? And they were like, well, no, And then my daughter had her umbilical cord around her neck 3 times, so I could not risk that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool, let's take her out. I'll just get back to work. Unfortunately, I hadn't brought my laptop to work to the hospital that day. So we popped. Baby came out. I was like, Hubby, please come and get my laptop. Because I had to send out reminders. I had to send the guest list to the client. It was happening that night. There was no way I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And I have this thing of I always send reminders the day of my event because we live in such a fast-paced world. I also need reminders. Don't forget the events tonight. Look forward to seeing you. So I had to send that out and especially send my client the guest list. So they had brought her. I was holding her. She was asleep. I was like, perfect time. Pulled out the laptop, sent the guest list. And hubby likes things, so he took the picture. It wasn't a pose for picture. It wasn't a pose for shot. It was not for the gram.
Yeah.
But I actually really love the picture, so I posted it to show people that we are superstars as women.
Yeah.
We make babies. We make heroes, superheroes.
And you never get off the clock.
No.
You're always working.
Oh. It's not the client's fault that I went into labor.
Okay. That's a very different perspective from
his vent went on.
Yeah.
So I got the job done. He didn't know until very recently
that was that day.
That was that day. I think the last event I did with him, we were chatting about it. And he was like, he mentioned the picture. I was like, actually, it was your event that day, if you didn't realize.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm extremely proud of you for is your involvement with the Special Olympics.
Yay, thank you.
And specifically because you are now a board member.
Yes.
So for a lot of people who don't know what the Special Olympics are, can you just break it down for people?
Okay, so you all know what's the Olympics, right? Normal, we all run, everybody's right, they're running. Paralympics, people with one arm, one leg, probably can't see. So it's all the physical disabilities. Special Olympics is intellectual disabilities. So people with Down syndrome, ADD, ADHD. So anything that is intellectually considered not normal in society. And those people compete at the Olympics every year. We bring the most medals home. Every 4 years. And we bring home the most medals versus the Olympics in relation to how many athletes we send, and the Paralympics. But very few people know about the Special Olympics. So that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell. They approached me about 4 years ago, the CEO, and she was like, we want you to get involved. And I'm like, I'm too busy, I'm in this fake Joburg. I don't have time for this thing. I don't even know what it is. I really thought it was just Paralympics. They get a lot of support from the government. I don't know why they need me. So she chased me for a good year. And I finally sat down with her once. I gave it some time and I said, what is this thing? Please stop calling me. And actually it spoke to my heart. And when I really found out what it was something I believed in. And I don't have anyone with learning disabilities in my family. It was just a cause that spoke to me. So I started doing PR for them, social media for them. And I love it. I was blessed to be able to go with them to the Winter Olympics in Austria 2 years ago. And I'll never look back. It's something I love. So the Summer Games are coming up next week, and I'm heading with them to Abu Dhabi for 2 weeks. So please wish us all luck, but we'll probably make you proud and come home with lots of medals.
That's awesome. And what I found interesting was that music came back into your life again because AKA actually adopted an athlete,
yes.
Right? What is that?
So I think with all the PR I do a lot of events, PR and concerts. So I have access and I'm exposed to all these guys all the time. So the guy can call up and say, yo, come and join us. So I think the reason they also brought me in is because I have this connection. So these are the times I can call people back and say, hey, remember that time I got you on that gig? Please hook me up. Please help. Don't come perform at my event for free, but can you get involved? And it was a matter actually of getting his mom. She's one of our ambassadors. I approached her. So I call people who have time, So I called his mom up and I said, please join us. And she loved the cause just as much as I did. And she pulled her son in. And so it starts a chain reaction. So she roped him in and here we are. He sponsored an athlete, which was great. And not just him. I mean, we have lots of artists, actors, musicians, everybody involved in the campaign. So it's a full circle. Music always comes back to me.
I know.
It does.
So do you guys have any questions at all? Because we have officially come to the end of our chat with Hypress. Nobody calls you that anymore, right? Are we retiring that name?
What? They all call me Hypress.
Okay.
Who knows my real name?
Do we have any questions? You have.
Yeah. It was
Are you going to tell the story about how we met?
Please tell the story.
I don't remember. All I remember is that I remember seeing you all the time with Lee Kazumba.
Yeah.
I want to know, are you still friends with her?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Are you still doing business?
What, with her?
Because you
No,
every
we didn't.
event I saw you at, you were always with her.
So Lee and I were very good friends. For those who don't know, Lee Kasumba, she used to be on YFM. She's a pioneer of music as well. She was one of the first female in the business, front of the in the mainstream of media. We were roommates and we were best friends. So we didn't really do business together. We did a few parties for fun, but it was not a serious business thing. We were really just best friends.
Okay. I want to know, did you study PR?
I did not study PR, and I think that's why it took me so long to get here. Because I studied fashion design and I just found myself in the PR business. And that's why it took me so long to learn it versus had I studied it.
Okay. That's it.
So I'm going to tell you the story about how we met. Because I think Facebook, what was it? No. Facebook. I think it had just took off. You're also my age, Shame, you're old. And you came up to me at an event, at a Edgar's Music Series event in Mega Music Warehouse, which is, what is it called now? Baseline. And you were like, hey, nice to meet you. He knew my name, Melanie. Yeah. I follow you on social media, on Facebook. And the whole night, I was so paranoid. I was like, who is this guy? I think he's a stalker. Oh my God. And I think that was the beginning of social media for me. Because people actually follow you and they watch what you do. And you were so lovely to me.
Yeah, I remember. I was
you were
like,
probably 12.
I was big on Facebook and MySpace at the time.
MySpace. It could have been MySpace even.
Yeah, it's both those.
MySpace.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I think you snuck in the party. You might have been like 12 or 13.
Do we have any more questions? Can we go over here? I want to come to you now.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
Speak into the mic a bit more.
The one question I want to ask you is, what's the one thing that kept you going? Because you say you started businesses and started other businesses on the side. What's the one thing that always kept you going?
I love PR and I love people and I like nice things. So the truth of the matter is I need to pay my bills. And the one thing I'm really, really good at is selling things. I could either go into sales or I could do something I really loved, which is PR, writing. So I think I just followed. My passion keeps me going because I genuinely love people and I love writing. And those two coming together is PR. So that's what keeps me going.
Hi.
Hi.
How do you balance being a mom and having such a heavy presence as an influencer?
Good question. I once got dissed on social media for that. Like, you're always out. When are you ever with your children? I'm with my children all the time. I have an amazing support system. I have a very, very supportive husband who's very hands-on. I have a mom who's amazing. Like I told you guys earlier, I'm off to Abu Dhabi for 2 weeks. I have an amazing mother-in-law, so she's flying down to help hubby cook for him, just help where need be. So I have an amazing system set in place. And I also have a live-in nanny. I'm blessed to have that. So she's the other mom when I'm not there. So the fact of the matter is I'm with my children a lot of the time. Weekends I'm with them as well. I am out 3 nights minimum a week. But I have a great support system, like I said. And yeah, I make time for my children. I find a way to balance things out. It's hard. It's tough. And I have 3, so thank you. But we all can do it. So it's just about finding a system that works. Thanks for the question.
Another question?
Hi.
Hi.
My question is around management style. I mean, you seem like you're a very hands-on person. You believe in doing things yourself. With building a business, how do you delegate? And how have you learned that over the years? And what is your current management style?
So I've been working for many, many years. I'm still learning how to be a good manager. I find it so hard to delegate because I'm a perfectionist. So I'll still look over it 1,000 times before I agree with somebody. But I found a way to hire a few really good people. So I don't really have a lot of permanent staff. So I hire in with a lot of projects. And I'm all about teamwork. So I'm not the boss. I don't want to be the boss of anything. So my management skill my type of management is very relaxed. And I believe we work in a team. So I'm a team leader at the time of that project. And I treat my staff with fairness and on at the same level that I would treat anybody else, that I would treat, my boss. I did back in the day. So I hate the concept of having a boss per se. So I try and work on we all equal, which we are. I think I'm a cool, relaxed kind of team leader. Yeah. And I take in everybody's opinion because I actually value your opinion. You actually know more than me because you're immersed in the field. I'm just a lady who sits in the office and tries to make things happen. A lot of my young employees, they're actually in the field witnessing what's going down. And I think at the time of me being in the industry, I think a lot of my bosses at the time, they weren't very understanding or open to change. And that's why a lot of those previous employers or those type of employers might not be in the industry anymore because they weren't open to change. Yeah. I hope that answered your question.
Hi, Melanie. How are you?
Hi.
I've got 2 questions.
Cool.
So, what is your advice on approaching publications or companies to pay you after you freelance for them for a couple of months or like a year? And the second one, how do you feel about doing business with friends again? So
for the first one, I'm all for it. You should never work for free. I think if you prove yourself as an asset to the company, they should be approaching you to stay on and not lose you to another publication. So I'm all for it. Please do. You need to speak up for yourself. And I think even as basic as asking for a raise when I was younger, nobody's going to just give you a raise. You have to ask for it. So I'm all for it. So I think it has to be in place. But if no one offers you, you need to stand up and say, hey. Second one, working with friends, it's a no for me. I think with my best friend, she currently runs Draftees, which I was previously involved in. We don't talk business, and we actually really don't talk business. We keep it. We don't. My husband's a witness. We try and keep our business really separate, and it works really. Our friendship is great. They are crossovers sometimes, but it's a no for me. I won't work with friends again. It will take a lot for me to work with friends. I'm working in the sense of a partnership, not to say if Helen comes and says she wants to be a rapper, can I do her PR? I would do her PR before anybody else. In that sense, I would. But partnership, you want to work with me as a friend, be a partner, I think twice. I'd rather have you as my friend than an enemy later on.
I think we could totally make that happen. Can you imagine?
No.
Me rapping?
A DJ, we've had this discussion. DJ, maybe.
I should be a DJ. But imagine if I was a rapper and then I brought out Diva.
Yeah, let's say Hypress.
Yes. Hi, Mel.
Hi.
I'd like to just know if, social media and the past couple of years, if it's, changed your traditional way of doing PR, like when you started out. What's the difference? Has it made it easier for you? Or just the climate in general in terms of the industry?
Completely. Thanks for the question. Completely changed the face of PR. I think I come from the generation where we spoke about MySpace. I was working at a traditional PR agency at the time, and MySpace had just launched. And I was the only one in the company who said, what is this thing called MySpace? I want to get on it. And I had an agreement with my boss at the time, or the director, to say after hours, can I stay at the office and, figure out how this thing works, set up an account, and she was all for it, but, to a limit. So maybe an hour or 2. So I mastered this thing. Then Facebook came out. Then Twitter came out. And I was always ahead of the game in figuring out how this thing worked. And then I mean, it just got bigger. It wasn't going away. So PR evolved with it. I don't just offer traditional PR in my business. I offer social media, elements as well. I do influencer campaigns. And if I hadn't stayed ahead of the game, a lot of, like I said just now, a lot of those agencies no longer exist because they exist, but their clientele is very limited because they didn't keep up with the times. I think it's a bonus. I love it. It has there are negative points around it with news happening now and being in the paper when I still need to send a magazine and a publication, a press release that's going to, sorry, Helen, it's not immediate. But even them, they've moved with the times, and every magazine has online platforms. So it's completely changed the face of the industry. We love it, though.
It's actually funny that you mentioned social media, because remember when Facebook started doing that thing, like if you have 5,000 friends, you can't add more? Like literally when they first started doing it, you were the first person.
Me and Fresh were the first to have 5,000 friends.
It was like, no, you can't add Melanie, like she's got too many friends. But we have another question in the back.
Hi, Melanie.
Hey.
How are you?
What's your name?
Hi, my name is Oscar.
Hi, Oscar.
Yes. I just want to ask you, as one of the few females in the music industry, right? What are the challenges that you faced as a female, and what are the challenges you faced as the first female in terms of pure art in what seemed to be a male-dominant industry?
I think at the time when I was coming up, there weren't a lot of African or black publicists. So my challenges were so long ago. I think my challenges are different now as they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I started out. There's so many. Where do I begin? We can have this offline. There's so many. Yeah.
But you have one that was your biggest challenge? Because, you and I have spoken about, the weird ways that men address you.
Oh, Helen,
we
need a workshop on that.
we do need a workshop. But yeah, speak to Melanie when we're done. I think we have another question.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So you are also an influencer now. You've added that to your repertoire. Have you ever had your clients feel some type of way like, Melanie, that contract would have been great for me, and now you're putting yourself on? And how do you handle that?
Sure. Because I don't have a lot of artists, it's less likely to happen. But I normally do campaigns around being a mom and things that wouldn't really relate to them or affect their brand. So if I'm doing PR for Ricky Rick and I take on a mommy brand, it's never going to affect him. And because I have such a limited individual or artist clientele, no, I've not experienced that yet.
So you've never gotten a contract where it's like, ooh, this is nice. They want it for one of your clients, but you're like, ooh, but I could do this as well. You've never had that conflict of interest?
It's the other way around. A lot of clients who approach me, I will suggest my artists if they're approaching me. I got approached 2 weeks ago for something, and I suggested even not artists that are under my books. I would suggest artists that I think would be great for the project. Because guess what? I then manage the influencer campaign. And I manage the content. So, no, it's more the other way around where I would suggest my clients when they approach me, if it works for their brand.
All right, do you have another question?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Mel, you said something that I relate to. You said that you started off studying fashion design, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I'd just like to take you back to that. So, you didn't really go into that. You went more into PR. I wanted to find out, obviously, since you didn't study PR, it must have been a disadvantage at some point because obviously, insight. So, but now you're sitting here and you've done so many amazing things and you've done a lot of things. So I wanted to ask, how? How did you turn it around? Because you must have turned it around, whereas it mustn't have been as simple as you just outworked everybody. There must have been a bit of studying and a bit of on your part. How did you turn it around, whereas you're here now?
I get you. So in all other interviews that I speak about, I always say it took me 10 years to get to where I was. Had I not studied it, it could have taken me a year, 2 years. So I always encourage people to study it. My knowledge is street knowledge. I learned the hard way. I had mentioned something earlier about having been burnt a few times. So where I am right now is all through street knowledge, learning as I went along the way, figuring it out myself. Helen and I also spoke earlier about having mentors. At the time I had started out, there were no mentors. There were no other black female publicists, let alone male publicists, that I could look up to and pick up a call and say, what do I do in this case? That just didn't exist at the time I started 20 years ago. So I learned along the way. But I always said, had I studied it, I do believe I would have been a lot further in the game, and I would have been burnt a few times less than I had been if I had studied it. So yeah, it's tough.
I'm going to jump on that and say, you have a lot of women that you have mentored in the past.
I hope so.
Many years.
I hope so.
And a lot of those women have gone on to start their own businesses as well. Is it easy for you to let them go and watch them flourish, knowing that you've given them a head start that you didn't have?
I think it can work either way. There's some women that went on to be great publicists. And sometimes they become your competitor at the end of the day if you're still in the same line of work. So that cannot be great sometimes. But somebody let me go once and let me fly, and I flew. So I'm all about growth. And I think I actually should do it more. I don't think I do enough mentorships for females and males alike. And I'd like to look into that a little bit more.
Awesome. Any more questions?
How are you doing, Melanie?
Hi.
My name is Outre.
Hi.
There's been an ongoing theme about, and I suppose it's only necessary with regards to PR, where you interact and at some point connect emotionally with your clients. And you work in a space that's got a lot of egos, right? And as people that work in the background, you invest so much of yourself working towards someone else's dream. And then at some point they wake up and they're like, you know what, I don't feel like it. Sure. And after spending like six months or so longer. So I just wanted to ask the process of letting that go, because you've invested so much of yourself. Yeah, at some point they pay you.
Yeah.
But you've emotionally invested so much of yourself towards this idea that someone came to you, and it was a vague one, right?
Sure.
You worked in defining and
Are you in my
refining
head?
it.
Sure.
How do you let go of these things and move on?
You know what? It's funny you asked that, because it happened to me just recently. Are you in my head? I invested in a brand that I wouldn't invest in you if I didn't believe in you, but I invested in a brand that was amazing, that I loved, and I really believed in it. And a year later, the brand decided to quit what they were and go into something completely different. It hurt. It wasn't, the money was, I enjoyed getting paid for working on the brand and building it, but at the end of the day, it's still my name behind it. And my passion and my sweat and my blood and my time that I put into the brand. And the brand just decided to do something completely in a different direction. So it did hurt, yes. But guess what? You're going to meet another young and fresh artist that's going to come out and just be as passionate. And you can't, it's like a cheating boyfriend. You cannot ever date a guy because you were cheated on. You have to pick yourself up and, you're going to meet this passionate, young, up-and-coming artist that is probably more passionate than the one you worked with before. So you just try again. So it was tough. I'm still crying. I'm still getting over it, but I'm trying again.
Okay. Melanie, my name is Johnny. The question that I want to ask is, we know very much that music is one of Africa's best export globally. How then do you mobilize African artists, African musicians who are interviewed in global platforms, for example, to get them know that they're actually representing not just themselves, but they're representing an entire continent that is a PR problem. We've had this PR problem for a very long time. Downloaded a video of Wizkid on the Breakfast Club. He was high, like big time. I have this video at home. And I get so angry every single time. He couldn't answer the questions he was asked. I saw Davido was also interviewed. I saw Casper as well interviewed in these actually very powerful media platforms in America representing a continent like this. How then do we use these brands? You've worked in this space for a very long time, and then you see that an artist ceases to be an artist and actually becomes a an ambassador of a nation, an ambassador of a people, an ambassador of a culture, how then do you mobilize African artists to say, behave globally? Because you actually are representing us. We have bad leaders. Africa has been seen actually as a very bad continent where there's diseases and poverty and wars and stuff like that. How do we say to these guys who are actually more visible, powerful than presidents? You know, these guys, Wizkid is powerful, literally more powerful than the president of Nigeria internationally. How can you basically, with your experience, say to these guys, you know what, please, you want to be high, maybe after this interview? How do we do that?
I can't answer that question. I can only control the artists I work with. And I'm working with a huge brand like a Ricky Rick or Show My Jozi. And even with them, it takes some guidance in getting them some media training to go out into the bigger world and talk about it. You get to a point where you can't even control international artists like Chris Brown. So it's a global problem. I think it's bigger than me. It's bigger than you and I. I don't have an answer for you, to be honest. Yeah. I get you. I'd love to do PR for him, and then I could advise him.
Okay, one more question.
I wanted to ask, what's the difference between PR and marketing?
Marketing is the mom and the dad, and then the PR is like the other sibling. So I think we fall within marketing because marketing is so much broader. There's above the line, there's below the line, there's PR, there's so much more to marketing. So we're just one of the elements of marketing. So I'm not a marketing company, I'm a publicist. So I just offer PR services.
All right, I'm going to take 3 more questions because we do have to close in a little bit.
Are we being kicked out?
Is there somebody who has a question who hasn't asked a question before you go? We're going to come back to you last. So let's start here in front and then we'll go back.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
My name is Piwe, and
Piwe.
I happen to make music. So this is going to be a very artist-oriented question. There's a very big gap between artists in the mainstream and artists on the come up, right? There's a visible gap from where I'm sitting. Is there any it factor you look for in an upcoming artist that says, you know what, I want to work with him, apart from the music? Because talent alone means nothing.
Okay, I get a lot of calls from young artists. And I think as a young artist, which I honestly advise people, you don't need a PR person. You can do a lot of the stuff I do on your own. I think when you're established, I would only take clients that are more leaning towards more established, because I believe they need someone to manage their PR. I think as a young upcoming artist, you can manage your own PR. I would never feel comfortable taking money knowing it's something you could do yourself. You can pick up a phone and call a journalist and say, oh, yeah, it's not always going to be easy. Don't call me. Sorry. She's not going to take your call. But there's other people that will take your call. So it's about just doing it yourself. So you're going to pay me $20K to do your PR, and you're going to expect this amazing PR. You can do that yourself for free. Well, a few phone calls and some airtime. But honestly, I always advise very young and upcoming artists to do their own PR. Focus more on a manager or getting your brand out there, first and foremost, than being in the media. Because actually people need to see you before they read about you. When they keep seeing you, it will pressurize the Helens of the world to write about you, to say, oh, this guy is everywhere. He's at every event. And a quick scenario, there was a DJ a few years ago who was very huge at the time. I know the story very well. And he literally played at every gig. And he became so big because he was just everywhere. And the truth be told is he wasn't getting paid for 80% of those gigs. But he literally would call everybody and perform. And yeah, it's not always possible because you also need to pay your bills. But he could take that pay cut, and he was literally playing at Pop Bottles, at every nightclub, at every big festival, at Major League Gardens. He was everywhere, to a point where Helen would call him and say, hey, can I interview you? Who does your PR? What's going on? And actually, he was an okay DJ. He was actually a really good DJ, but he didn't have no publicist. He did it all himself, and he blew up. Not going to tell you who it is, but he's massive.
Shall we guess? No. But I think a lot of people struggle with, they feel like their music is good. They feel like they're already doing all those things in terms of doing social media and they're taking the free gigs, but they get to a point where people are like, but who are you? You know, people aren't writing about you, people aren't putting you on television.
Yeah.
So what would be the very first step? So I'm already doing the things that I'm on social media, I'm taking the free gigs.
Then do
what
PR.
do I do now?
Do PR for yourself.
But what is that first step?
The
that
first
counts
step is
as PR?
calling up journalists and saying,
Okay.
this is who I am. Can we do an interview? I think being in their face, there was actually a blog that kept tagging me in everything they posted. I got so annoyed that I actually wanted to know who they were. And they're one of the biggest websites, entertainment websites right now. But because they kept being in my face, and I'm just a PR person, I wanted to know who they were. And I wanted to invite them to all my things. So it's a different scenario from an artist. But for instance, a blog needs to be invited to my event to create content. But in that case, that worked very well. They were always in my face. It can work sometimes, it can backfire. But I think the constant chasing, if it doesn't work with Helen, then you call somebody else. You'll get through. But I'm saying don't pay somebody to do it when you can do it yourself. You're still up and coming. And it can be frustrating. But if you're passionate about what you do, you'll keep trying.
Okay, got you. Next question.
Hi.
The one thing, I've got two questions. The most important one is Helen kept asking you individually what it was like working with people. What was it like working with Bonang? That's the most important one. The second one is I'm also interested in like crisis PR in SA, especially in entertainment, in that we'll know that this person is Ricky Rick's publicist because she's in pictures with him, etc.
Yeah.
But it's almost like when there's crisis, there never seems to be PR around that. And I just wanted to know what's an example of how you sort of fixed a PR crisis and what's your whole thing around, like, do you say, don't tweet, you know, or do you say, okay, I'll take it from here? Or, you know, what's the first thing where there's been like a, what's that guy who peed and he was live on whatever his name is? You know, that kind of thing. That one. So, like, something like that. If you had a client like that who went live when they shouldn't have been live, because we've had so many of that, but I can't think of a good sort of crisis management PR situation in SA that I could say, oh, the PR showed up there. So I just want to know. But the first one is really important.
Okay, so I worked with Bonang when she was very young. I am a Bonang stan, so she was easy to work with. At the time, we're talking many years ago. She was a pleasure to work with at the time. I think also experience and how you work with somebody is based on how you know them. And I think because I've known her since she was very young, I've personally never had a bad experience with her. Working with her was good. It was easy, and she paid well. And she did all the interviews I asked her to do. So she was great. And those are the things I'll determine how it is to work with you. When it comes to crisis comms, I think when I sign somebody up, I always will give them PR training. So I already prepare you for the worst that could come. I try and take on clients and brands that are less likely to have crises or get involved in anything. And I did recently have a crisis situation where I had to deal with media, and I don't disappear. I'm very involved. I have a clipping on every single client I work with. So if something comes up in the media, I'm immediately alerted before him or his mom would see it, and I'll know how to deal with it. So yes, at some point I do say hold back on Twitter until we have come up with a complete strategy and crisis communication plan. I think because things are so instantaneous all the time, a lot of PR companies don't come up with crisis comm plans, which we used to 10 years ago. If we were doing a concert, you would do a crisis communication plan for every single scenario that could possibly go wrong at a concert. From somebody falling down the stage, to someone falling from the building, to a rape case, to a drunken person, to a shutdown. We would do that. It would take hours and days and weeks, but currently, because things are so instantaneous, they don't really do that anymore. But having the background, having done that in the past, I have the knowledge of it, and I try and be prepared, even though it's not physically on paper or written down. So with the crisis that we recently had, I had got the alert. I woke my client up, and we had to speak about it there and then. whether he was sleeping or not. I got hold of him, and we spoke about it on what the next steps were. And we did avert a lot of bad press. Some of it we had to take with because it comes with the good comes the bad, but we managed it very well. So I don't know if that answers your question. I think we don't do that anymore so much, and that's what the problem is. We don't actually plan for what could go wrong because we're on to the next 3 events, so we don't have time to work on what could go wrong on this event. I always thought it was a waste of time, and I think now I value it more that I have that knowledge. So,
all right. Did we have one more question? Oh. Okay, I think we're going to go there, and then you can speak to her after.
I want to know, you mentioned when you were earlier on that you first worked for Lee Club and stuff, and you worked with a few artists and stuff, and you weren't getting paid sometimes, and you were flabbergasted when you got your paycheck with YFM, and it was only a job for like 2 weeks. I want to know, what is the most paying job that you've ever had in a short space in time?
Your government work.
And obviously, it has to be. You have to give us a figure, like you did with YFM. You know, you're doing YFM bad.
That was the first thing.
You know, and I want to know, what is the earning potential of a PR company such as like your PR company? How much can a PR company earn? You know, earn, whatever.
So my biggest gig was probably government stuff. We can't talk figures because I never really got the full amount. They take so long to pay you that you never really get all the money. So you charge more than you really should get. So you actually get most of it. But yeah, it was over $1 million. I did a project for a government project. That's when I had to then suddenly get VAT registered because that year I made more than R1 million. So government gigs are great. It's just if you can wait 6 months or a year to be paid and if you have the energy to fight for it. So I tend to stay away from them. It was a nice learning lesson for me. I think I was 3-4 years in the business, so I loved it. It was great. And then potential of making money. I'm a small business, so I think there's different PR. So there's consumer PR, which is what I do, and then there's corporate PR. I hate corporate PR, so it's the very serious side of things. I love music, entertainment, sport. So I'm always going to be the stepchild of money making. So consumer PR, you'll never earn as much as you do in corporate PR. Potential, I mean, it can range anything from what your rates are. But I do okay. I'm a one-man show and I hire in when I need to, so I can really only charge based on like the capacity that I can offer the client or, the deliverables I give back to them. So it's a nice sustaining business if you have the context and you have the clients. But there's bigger agencies than me that make a whole lot more. So there is no standard really. I only know my standard. So
literally the last question, because now you have the mic in your hand.
All right, I have 2 questions. He also wants me to ask you one. My question was, because you said with artists, you need to do it yourself. What about PR graduates and journalist graduates? Because in this game, it's about who you know and who you're connected to. So when you're upcoming or you're trying to get into management, there's really nothing you can do unless you're pretty or have Instagram followers and Twitter and stuff. And even that doesn't work sometimes. So how do you give advice to young PR people coming up and which doors to knock at? And then second question, how do you get on your database to work with you for some of your events?
So I think hustling. I grew up in a different generation, and for me it was a completely different hustle from what it is right now. And I would adapt it to what today's generation probably is. But get yourself in there. I only know the people I know because I kept hustling and kept going out and being in the right places, and just getting to know people. I think just keep on your hustle. I think that's the only advice I can get. Or call me and I can take you around with me and introduce you to who I know. But on the real, I mean, I hustled my way. I have a huge database and it started somewhere where I happened to have a DJ boyfriend and I met his contacts. And then we broke up and I had to learn the game all over again and put myself in a different space and be in a different industry. But I was a person who was always out, putting myself out there, meeting new people, networking. And as much as I hate influence, I hate the word networking. But I was out networking all the time. And Helen said I was one of the first people who had 500 Facebook friends. And that was because I was out taking pictures with celebs I might never have met, but like I was there acting like I knew them. And I think, yeah, there's Lasizwe show. What is it called? Fake it till you make it or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, I think the younger generation hype up stuff more than it is. Yeah, if that's what you got to do. You know, be out there, network, meet people. Don't be shy. Come up to me. Don't say, oh, there's Mel. I'm very approachable, even if you think somebody's not approachable. I was young once where I went to Kanye Loma and said, hi, I'm Mel. I want to be you one day. And I had an opportunity to work like with her recently, and it was like, oh my God. I met Outre last year, and it was somebody that I looked up to. I thought I'd never meet. And like a lot of people think, I could never meet that person. But network, put yourself out there.
And then the second question was, if people want to get invited to your events, how do they?
Just give me your details. What do you do? It was your question. Okay. Just give me your details. I'll add you to my database. I have a media list.
All right. So that brings us to the end of this Imbali Live. And I think it's very important to say we wanted you here so that we could give you your flowers while you could smell them. And we're going to give you your literal flowers while you can smell them. But thank you.
Thank you.
But I think we toast you for everything that you've done for South African hip hop, everything you continue to do for music, for PR, for media in general. And we hope that you feel the love.
Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed it or learned a little bit about me. Thanks for having me.
Nice. So, as always, Imbali Live is every first Saturday of the month at 2 o'clock. Yes, every first Saturday. Our next guest is somebody who's very long-winded and talks too much and is a hip-hop pioneer. So, I think you know who it is. So please do come through on the 6th of April. Please invite your friends. RSVP, helenherimbi.co.za. And if you want to tweet about us or Instagram or all of those things, the hashtag is Imbali Live, at Hypress, at UHelenH. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to Zola and the mixologists and the sound desk and everybody who makes sure that Imbali Live is as dope as it is. And thank you for coming.
Let's just get wild.